Statistical, mathematical fact
never has been down.
has broken every single record. There is no asset that has come close.
It's the only thing in the industry that was not touched, that was not hacked, and it never fails doing what it promised in 2009. It's never
What's
failed.
the best performing asset the world has ever seen? And you'll find out
What I
that
named
it's Bitcoin.
our talk here today was Bitcoin is Maths and why it's programmed to rise forever. Now, I posted a comment referring to this, the fact that Bitcoin will never stop rising in your entire life. Not in your lifetime will it ever stop rising. Not in the lifetimes of your children or their children or even their children. This is something that sounds like it's hyperbole. It's something that sounds like Oliver Velez is exaggerating. He's trying to make a point. It's not exaggeration. It's not hyperbole. It's a mathematical freaking fact. And that is what we're going to talk about. I need you. I want you, but not only I need you to understand why this is so, why it's not just a statement by a dude on the internet. You need to understand this so that you can arrive at the proper conviction to be able to ride through all of the things that happen between Bitcoin's pumps, the nonsense, the FUD, the haters online, the no coiners, the news, some politicians, whatever. All of that stuff is still probably going to be with us. And you need to be able to ride through that. You need to be able to stack in the storm, which is what predicts what your wealth's going to be in the next cycle. You need to use the darkest moments of Bitcoin to be the most aggressive. And in order to do that, you have to have conviction like a mofo. You cannot stack in the dark times unless you are 1000% convicted. You cannot stack in the face of all the obstacles that come your way from the haters. There are times, people, and some of you can relate to this. Many of you are going to bed every single night with the person you love, as well as the person who's your number one enemy regarding Bitcoin. Now, some of you can relate to that. Some of you can relate to the fact that you break bread every single day with people who don't have faith in what you're doing. You have a meal every single day in your homes. And the very people that you are trying to protect, the very people that you are trying to do this for, do not believe you, do not have faith in you. And it takes a conviction that is extraordinarily deep to continue to do the right thing, to stay the course and not lose it in the dark times. You understand? This is oftentimes a very lonely road. It's freaking lonely at the top. Do you understand? It's freaking lonely at the top. And it's probably going to be that way for a while until Bitcoin's 1 million. So you're going to have to get your conviction up. The first thing I really want to do here is kind of go over Bitcoin's performance here. Let's touch upon Bitcoin's performance if you'll allow me. And while it's been very difficult to stay up to date on Bitcoin's price because it's been moving so rapidly, but this is what I have so far. I think it's very important for us to have our finger on the pulse of what Bitcoin has historically done, not only during every single month of the year, what's its statistical odds of going up this month or down this month based on its history. But I also think it's important for us to understand what particularly happens in the halving years. So we are at the tail end of Bitcoin's fourth halving year, which is 2024. And of course, as most of you probably know, Bitcoin has a halving of its issuance rate every 4 years. The last one was 2020. The one before that was 2016. And the one before that, the first one was 2012. Now, if you take a look at what I want you to take a look particularly at October, November, and December, but all of them. So start off from this October, 2024, and look down the entire row of October. And what you'll find is that the majority of Octobers are green. Okay. Okay. This is not the case for September to the left. You do have a sprinkling of greens as well, but there's more red in September statistically than October. We've talked about this, but it is actually October that really starts heating up. All right. Sometimes it's actually toward the end of September that starts heating up. October starts really putting on putting the pedal to the metal. In November, you are in total blast off form. And this is exactly what we're experiencing. We started the move off the bottom in September. October, we started stepping on the gas. All right. Look at September, 7.3%. October, we started stepping on the gas. And we're in full throttle right now. We're in full blast off mode. We're not even halfway through November and we're up almost 30%. We were actually up more than 30% just this month before the most recent pullback here, which is to be expected. All right. Do not get upset. Do not get disappointed with these pullbacks, people. Please understand this, that Bitcoin deserves to rest. You need these reprieves. Otherwise, it's not sustainable. A straight beeline to the upside is not sustainable. And the price for an uninterrupted move to the upside is a collapse that we don't want. We're good with collapses, but there are certain levels of a collapse that I don't even want. Do you understand? And there's a big price to pay for a move straight up that has no pauses, no breaks, no reprieves, and no pullbacks. You don't want that. I'm telling you, you do not want that. You want strong moves interrupted by a crack every now and then, a pause, a back and forth period, a period that makes people start to doubt. Is this all? Maybe it's the top. We need that. And that's what creates the possibility for a healthy, sustainable move to the upside. You don't want to run your item like it's a freaking slave. Do you understand? You want it to run like an elite athlete. It prepares, makes an Olympic run, then rests for a complete day or two. Gets himself back on par, gets himself repaired, rejuvenated, so that next run can be as fresh as possible. If you don't allow your asset to have these rests, if you don't allow your Olympic athlete to get those rests between bouts, between all-out days on the field, then that athlete will stop being a top Olympic athlete pretty quickly. These rests are necessary. So do not be disappointed by these pullbacks. They are gifts and they're very necessary for a continued run to the upside. All right. I just want to make that point very clear here. So we see that we are in full throttle in November. Now, if you look through all of the Novembers, you'll find that the majority of Novembers are very positive, and you're positive by a very healthy amount. December is not bad either. Okay. December is mostly green, but I also want you to look at January. So as you go back to the far left of this image and you see January, February, what we're looking at is January, February of next year coming up. And January and February are very positive months as well. All right. So things are happening exactly how they have happened for the most part, statistically, throughout all of Bitcoin's life. August and September, August is weak, September is weak most of the time. If it is positive, it's positive most of the time in single digits. Then you start accelerating. You're positive most of the time in double digits in October, November, and December, and January, February, and sometimes into March. All right. Bitcoin tends to take somewhat of a reprieve, maybe April, May, maybe. Sometimes, not all the time. But we've got a very dynamic period in front of us if history's any guide. And I've constantly reminded you that when I say if history's any guide, it's only colloquial in nature. It's because everybody says that. History is the only guide. There is no guide that human beings have except history. We don't have another guide. Everything else that we put the label guide on is just freaking spitting in the wind. History is the only concrete thing we have. We don't have the future. So the only thing we have is the past. And the past, what's the word for that? History. So don't mistake my terminology. If history's any guide, no, it freaking is the only guide we have. And so it's the only thing we can use. All right. Because I'm tired of people saying, but Oliver, history is no guarantee of future results. I know that, bozo. But it's the only thing we have to use. So if I don't use history, then what the heck am I going to use? All right. I am a big believer in betting on history because it is the only concrete thing we have. So if Tuesday always follows Monday, and that's been my history throughout my life, I'm not going to create a scenario where one day I say, well, you know what, maybe this week, I've never experienced it, never seen it before. It's never happened before, but maybe I'll bet that Tuesday doesn't follow Monday this week. I'm not doing that. I'm not an idiot and I'm stupid. Do you understand? And this will tie into something that I'm going to explain to you in just a moment, in just a few moments. The year after Bitcoin's halving, we're in the latter part of Bitcoin's halving year. The year after is the explosive one. You ain't seen nothing yet. The year after is statistically the biggest one. I know last year was an exception, but generally over Bitcoin's relatively short history, the third year or the year after Bitcoin's halving year is the most explosive. The most explosive part of Bitcoin's up potential is ahead of us, not now. So you can still capitalize on what is statistically in front of us, which is the biggest up move of our lives, 2025. We'll talk about that. Anyway, let's move on here. I want to show you this. Now, I thought this was interesting from, let me get this out of the way here. I thought this was interesting from Galaxy Research. Bitcoin's biggest daily moves. We just experienced, guys, Bitcoin's biggest daily move in history. Now, guys, listen. The lowest price I bought Bitcoin, I'm not early, guys. All right. I came into this market in 2020. I managed to get a gift, which was the C19 collapse of all things. Bitcoin got hit hard, and that was my first foray. I had been waiting for the moment to strike, and it gave me the moment to strike. That announcement was made public on all of my social media. So thousands of people followed me in, and the lowest price we grabbed Bitcoin was at 3,800. Now, most of you who follow my work, you know how I like these numbers. I like the 3s and the 8s. So we always are buying. So I was buying on the way down. So I always buy on the 3s and the 8s, right? So I'm buying 4,800, then 4,300. See, 8 and 3. And then after 4,300, 3,800. And then we had bids in the market at 3,300, but we didn't get as low as 33. Our 3,008s got filled. Okay. Now, that was the biggest purchase of my career because we buy in a pyramid. We start off light and every buy gets incrementally bigger. And so the bottom buy is always bigger than all of the buys ahead of you, on top of you. So 3,800 was my biggest Bitcoin buy in my entire career. I tell you all of that to say this. Understand that today Bitcoin moved in one day almost 3 times, well, 2 times the amount of my initial purchase at 3,800, or my lowest purchase at 3,800. So look, I want you to think about this. Bitcoin came into existence on January 3rd of 2009. It's really came into existence when it was first mined. It became available on January 9th, 2009, right? Now, fast forward to 2020. That's 11 years, right? It took 11 plus years for a Bitcoin. Well, no, it took less, but 11 years later, Bitcoin's trading at $3,800, my lowest buy. I know it had been higher, but 11 years later, it's trading at 3,800. Today, one day moves 8,300. What? It moved in one day. It took 10 plus years for Bitcoin to reach $4,000. 10 plus years to reach 4,000. Today, it moves double that in a single day. One day, it moves 8,000. That's twice the amount it took 10 years to actually get to. I want you to focus on this because this will never stop. Do you understand? We're at 80,000. You're going to see in relatively short order a single day move double $80,000. Do you understand what I'm saying? We're at $90,000. You will see a single day move twice the amount of 90,000. I'm now seeing in a single day it moved twice the amount that I bought at 4,000. Do you understand? This is not going to stop. We're going to see $180,000 bars. You're going to see at some point in the future a $500,000 bar, single day. I know this sounds crazy, but hopefully by the time I finish going over some details here today, it won't sound as crazy as it is. You see, if someone told you in 2020, Bitcoin's trading at $4,000, 4 years from now, next cycle, $4,000 is going to be double. They're going to have days double that. No one would have believed you. No one. Do you understand? But it's happened throughout all of Bitcoin's history. No one ever thought Bitcoin would ever reach $1 when they were trading it at 6 cents, fractions of a penny. No one ever thought that it would ever, when it got to $1, it would never get to $10, $100, $1,000, 10,000. And now people still don't think we're a few percentage points away. It won't reach 100,000. You hear it all the time. And people are saying, definitely not 1 million. This will never stop. This will never stop. This train does not stop. When I first bought on those 2 days between 38 and 4,800, I bought in that $1,000 range. I had a prediction. It was 40,000. Even my own traders who've been with me for a long time, who know what I've done, seen me do it, they thought I was crazy too. Oliver, we need to see details because this is wild. We just bought at 3,800. You're telling us to hold out until 40,000? Like nothing does that. And not only did we go to 40,000, we went to 70,000, 69,400. Right? So I'm used to this. I'll give you the details. All right. Bitcoin has dropped back below Saudi Aramco, but it did briefly take out oil, guys. I want you to understand that this is the biggest oil asset in the entire world. Bitcoin, it slipped back just temporarily, you'll see, but it's taking on all the oil in the world. Do you understand me? It took out all the silver in the world. It took 9,000 years to produce that silver value. 9,000 human years to produce silver's value. And gold took it out in 15 years, 15 plus years. It is now on its way to taking out oil. Do you understand this? It'll fluctuate every now and then until it just zooms past. It always does that. It takes the next level out, fluctuates and plays with it a little bit, and then zooms past it until it takes out the next one, fluctuates with that one a little bit, back and forth, and then zooms past it. And I'm telling you here, I want you to look at these assets. I want you to look at this number very carefully. Do you see Google is next, Amazon, Microsoft? Mark my words, please do this. You can come back to this place, highlight it, mark it, record it, copy it, save it. Bitcoin will be number 2 next year. Look, it's going to take out Google. It's going to take out Amazon, Microsoft, Apple, and NVIDIA. It may not take out gold, but what I'm here to say, you will see Bitcoin at number 2. Now, just so that you don't, like my friend says, Oliver, this sounds crazy. You're going to have to give me some details. Let me give you some details. All right. It would take about 180, more or less. Bitcoin's price needs to be at 180,000. All things considered, that's 100,000 more points, right? Maybe 90,000 more points, whatever, more or less. All right. That's a stone's throw away for Bitcoin. That's all things being equal. What do I mean by that? Let's assume that the rise in all the other assets is on par or stays relatively stable. We know that may not be the case, but Bitcoin's the fastest horse. It's not going to matter how much these other things rise. It's taking every single one of them out. Outside of gold, Bitcoin will be the most valuable thing on planet Earth outside of gold in 16 years. Its 16th birthday is coming up in January. So in 16 years, it is going to take out every single asset that human beings have ever held dear, with the exception of gold. And it's the freaking baby of the bunch. Gold's the senior citizen, 6,000 plus years. It's done this in 16 years. And let me just tell you this. If you don't think that Bitcoin has the potential to go past 180,000 to take out NVIDIA, dude, you don't know anything about Bitcoin, because that would be highly disappointing. That wouldn't even match last cycle's move to the upside, when last cycle did not have spot Bitcoin ETFs. Last cycle did not have institutional sponsorship and adoption. Last cycle did not have small nation states adopting it. Last cycle did not have the micro sailor playbook and other companies copying it. Last cycle did not have FASB rule change. FASB rule change is no longer making it punitive for publicly traded companies to hold Bitcoin on the balance sheet. Last cycle did not have the top 5 wealth managers on planet Earth pounding the table every single week to their clients about Bitcoin. Last cycle did not have presidential candidates of the most powerful country on planet Earth running on a Bitcoin platform. Last cycle did not have a president-elect proposing to make Bitcoin a strategic reserve asset and to potentially add to that asset at a clip of 1 million Bitcoin per year, and a president talking about supporting and protecting the Bitcoin mining ecosystem in the country. Last cycle had none of this. And if you think that this cycle is going to be less than last cycle, you're an idiot. I just have to say it. You're a freaking idiot. This is not the same Bitcoin, people. The Bitcoin that you have today is not the Bitcoin that I went into in 2020. It's a freaking completely different galaxy. Do you understand what I'm saying? You will never see the bear markets we had in the past because there is now a permanent institutional bid in the market. There's a country, nation, state bid that will never go away in Bitcoin. There's an institutional bid. Entities are dedicated to buying Bitcoin every single day of their existence. We never had that until this cycle. And so to sit there and see all of this and to think Bitcoin is the same as it was last cycle is being dumb. To think that the potential upside with all of this now that no other cycle had is not going to mean more explosive moves to the upside, you're an idiot. If you think that demand is not bigger or going to be bigger this cycle than last cycle, you have a very, very low IQ. And so just the fact that Bitcoin is guaranteed to have more demand this cycle than last cycle because of all those things I just mentioned, it has to have a bigger rise than almost any other cycle in the past. And I'll tell you why. Because there is no elasticity on the supply side. You see, when you increase demand for anything else on planet Earth, the supply increases too. You understand? If I sold you glasses and everyone said, I want Oliver's glasses, but I had a limited amount of supply, trust me, to make more money, I'm going to find a way to make more glasses. Oh, wow, I only have 100,000 of these. 2 million people want my glasses, OV glasses. I'm going to find a way to create more glasses to make more money because the demand is higher. So the supply is going to go up. You can't do that with Bitcoin. The demand is exploding, it's only going to explode more, and the supply is inelastic. This is a recipe for a runaway market that cannot be stopped, cannot be halted, cannot be perturbed, cannot be controlled, cannot be manipulated, cannot be deflated, cannot be debased by any human being, organization, institution, or nation state on this planet or any other planet in our galaxy and beyond. It's the only market that doesn't have circuit breakers. It's the only market that can't stop and change the rules on us like they changed the rules on us with the GameStop scenario. They changed the rules on us when the market was collapsing in 2008 and they wouldn't allow me to short more, so they eliminated the possibility of shorting. They can't change the rules like shutting the market down after the Twin Towers are hit. There's no more market for the next week. Let's let everything cool down. There's none of that with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is not run by human beings. Bitcoin's not controlled by human beings. It is autonomous. It is independent. It is running without any human intervention, without any breaks. And when this thing blows, people, when it goes, there's no circuit breaker that can stop it. There is no committee that can change the rules. It's going to run and it's going to run and it's going to run. And you got just a little taste of it today and yesterday. Just a little taste, just a little bit. Steve, I agree with you, but I think you mistyped there. I think you mistyped. So I'm going to correct you. Most people can't afford not to have Bitcoin today. Absolutely right. I know that's what you meant, Steve. So I corrected you there, but I know you meant that. That's absolutely right. No one can afford to not have Bitcoin today. So here's the thing. Listen, ICE 9031. I'm going to apologize to you in advance. I just want you to know I'm not trying to make fun of your comment, because I don't want to do that. I want to encourage comments, but it might sound a little bit like I am, but I don't want you to think that, okay? So just be tough a little bit, all right? But this is what I have to deal with all the time. I just sat here and I did a rant for 15 minutes on the fact that Bitcoin is going to go from that number 7, number 8 spot, right? All the way to number 2. I explained to you that number 2 is 180 or something $1,000. That's another 100,000 points or so, right? And then I get, and that's being conservative. We're going way past that. So, and then I get, well, where do I buy it? Seriously? Like, you think there's a place, a specific place to buy, and we're going way past 185, way past 200. We're going way past 300. And you're asking me, where do you buy it? Like, dude, come on. That's like someone saying, Oliver, okay, Bitcoin's 6 cents now. Do I buy it at 5 cents and 95? Do I buy it at 5.9 cents or 5.8 cents? Dude, just buy it. The prices now are nothing. Do you understand this? This is my whole message point. This is nothing. Stop freaking quibbling around. You're going to miss out on one of the biggest opportunities of your life. It doesn't care whether you got Bitcoin at 0.09 million or 0.08 million or 0.07 million. Do you understand this? We're still dealing with pennies. Please do not get Gregged. I've constantly shown you this, right? I'm going to have to do it again. I'm just going to have to do it again. I'm sorry. When I first got into this, right, I saw so many people, why can't I get this, miss out in 2020 because they thought Bitcoin was going lower than 3,000. There were so many people that were talking about Bitcoin going to 1,000, 2,000, and that 3,000 was still too high. And they quibbled about price, which they felt at the time was not small by any means, but they're still waiting for Bitcoin 1,000. They've missed out on one of the biggest gains of their lives. I don't want you to get Gregged here. This guy was quibbling over pennies. Now, at the time, we can maybe relate a little bit. The dude had 1,700 Bitcoin at 6 cents. He sold him at 30 cents. He made a whopping gain, and probably was thinking about going back in at some point if it dropped. Trying to figure out at what point do I buy back in? Now it's $8. Do you think someone who sold Bitcoin at 30 cents is going to buy at $8? This guy will never buy Bitcoin again. Do you hear what I'm saying, people? Listen, read my lips. This guy will hate Bitcoin for the rest of his life. He will probably support everything else that is counter to Bitcoin. He will unconsciously take it out on Bitcoin because of him, because of what he did. He will poo-poo Bitcoin. He will support everything else as long as it's not Bitcoin. And he will wake up every day of his life haunted by this forever. This I can guarantee. I've been trading financial markets for 43 years. I've seen this story over and over again. Do not get Gregged. Do you understand? Do not get Gregged. Stop fooling around with pennies here. We're still in the penny phase. And you're going to think that coming out of your little Bitcoin because you got a little gain at 80 or 90 or 100,000 is going to be something, and you're going to regret it for the rest of your life. And you will be miserable for the rest of your life. Look at this guy. We've got the best performing asset in the history of all of mankind. I'm telling you that this asset, despite the fact that it is all-time new highs, is just about to enter its most explosive year. And I'm talking about this most explosive year being bigger than probably any other year in Bitcoin's history because of all the things that Bitcoin is today that it never was. And this guy wants me to talk about Forex. Really? Holy shit. That you ever see the meme with the guy say, "Oh yeah, that's cool. He's barbecuing. Oh, that's really cool, Bitcoin. Yeah. Did you see the game last night?" Like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? Come on. Stay focused here. You've seen me post this. Most of you have seen me post this before. Bitcoin is mathematically certain, right? Now, I want you to look at this, but just tell me if you see a pattern here, all right? I know it might be somewhat difficult to decipher at first. Maybe it's going to be a little difficult for you. All right, but let's try it, shall we, boys and girls? Let's try it, right? Okay, let's go. Up, up, up big, down. Okay, you got that so far, right? You got it? All right. Up, up big, then down. All right, that's the pattern. It's a pattern I want you to try to see. Now, concentrate for me, okay? This is going to require a bit. All right, let's see how this pattern appears to have repeated itself throughout, like a freaking mathematical formula, all of Bitcoin's life. All right, let's try to. All right, it's going to be hard. Let's try. All right, let's do the next one. All right, next one. Up 2015, 2016, up 2017, a big down. All right, there it is again. All right, now stay with me. Stay with me, okay? Let's go to the next cycle. All right, don't get distracted. Don't get lost. All right, this is high-level stuff, boys and girls. All right, 2019 up, 2020 up, 2021 up. Okay, down. All right, we got that one done. All right, now, here's where you're going to really have to dig deep. All right, think you can do it? I think you can do it. I think you can do it. Let's try it. All right, 2023 up, 2024 up. Now, here's the grand this is your exam, okay? Based on history, based on the only thing we know, what's next? Just somebody type it for me. This is Bitcoin's cyclical, mathematical. Guys, this is mathematically baked in. Here's what I want you to remember, right? And we're going to go into details regarding this. Here's what I want you to remember. Every 4 years, I want you to write this down. Write this down, boys and girls. Every 4 years. You ever see that meme with Bart writing on the board? That's what I want you to do. Every 4 years, Bitcoin is mathematically guaranteed to move to a new high. Repeat that 100 times. Every 4 years, Bitcoin is mathematically programmed to move to an all-time new high. Repeat one more time. Every 4 years, Bitcoin is mathematically programmed to move to an all-time new high. And let me tell you something. It will never stop your entire life. Not in your lifetime, not in my lifetime, not in your kids' lifetimes, not in their kids' lifetimes. Now, I know you want more detail regarding this, but I want you to remember this now because we're about to go into detail now. You will never stop seeing Bitcoin move to a new high every 4 years, like freaking clockwork. It's the most certain bet humans have ever had. For the first time, we have certainty. Why? Because we have something that's not controlled by uncertain men. Man is what's uncertain in our existence. Human beings are what fails us. Every single human being in your life has failed you at one point or another. Your spouse has failed you at one point or another in some way. Your children have failed you at one point or another in some way. Your parents have failed you at one point or another in some way. Your bankers, your financial institutions, your church has failed you. Everybody who's human has failed you at one point or another. Your politicians, your lawyers, your businessmen, your everyone. The only thing uncertain is what is controlled by men. But Bitcoin is not controlled by men. Bitcoin is a mathematical protocol, and 1 + 1 will always equal 2 for your life, my life, your children's life, and all of their children's lives too. For the first time, we have access to something that is not in the hands of human beings, not susceptible to their greed, not susceptible to their fallacies, their errors, their inconsistencies, their faults, their shortcomings. We've got something that is run by maths. We've never had this before in the human experience. Everything that we have been told to bank on, we've had to hand it over to another man, to trust other men to run it for us, care for it, and protect it for us. But for the first time, we don't. We don't have that. We have certainty. And this is why it's so difficult for us to believe in Bitcoin, because people say, well, Oliver, it just can't be that certain. And I understand that sentiment because we've never had this in the human experience before. But it's here. And the ones that stand the benefit the most are the ones that can, as quickly as possible, grasp what I'm telling you. This will never stop. Now, let's go to the details. All right. Hash rate predicts future, guys. This to me is one of the most important metrics with Bitcoin. As long as this is healthy, as long as this is continuing in a general uptrend, we have nothing to worry about. I don't care what the USD denominated price says. This ultimately pulls the USD denominated price in its direction. All right. And it's exploding. Now, guys, I do want to show you, since I started my Bitcoin club with my special dedicated Bitcoiners, we started in March of 2020 onward. Okay, I told you this. And I started, guys, here's the crazy thing. I started with 9,000 people. Well, we're about 3,000 now, but the bear market drop wiped so many people out. They just left. All right. But anyway, there's about 3,000 people still involved here. But this is our performance since we started. I updated this today. We're up 2,268% versus the S&P 132%. So that's just freaking crazy. But here, guys, if you think for a moment that you are late, take a look at this. This is how early we are. When someone mentions that, Oliver, Bitcoin's too expensive, I tell them, look at this. Look at how early you are. It's too late. Look at how early you are. We're still in the baby years. We're in the baby cycles. Bitcoin has a birthday every 4 years. It's a leap year. It doesn't have a birthday in reality every year. Its true birthday is every 4 years. And so Bitcoin is really really 4 years old. When you look at it from cycle to cycle, it's really 4 years old. That halving day is sort of like a leap year day. It doesn't happen annually. It happens more or less every 210,000 blocks, more or less for every 4 years, with 10-minute average blocks. Okay, but it's interesting to see where you are and how far this network has to go before all Bitcoin is basically released out into the world. I would actually like you to look at this. One of the things I want to point out here is that I believe it's going to take roughly 40 years to mine the last Bitcoin. So the last Bitcoin gets mined over 40 years, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. So 40 years to mine the last Bitcoin. And there's 4 years where one Satoshi, so all the mining power in the world, all nation states, everyone on planet Earth will be scrambling in the year 2036 for one Satoshi every 10 minutes. One Satoshi is going to spit out every 10 minutes, and the entire world is going to be scrambling. Can you imagine what the value of one Satoshi is going to be? That's crazy, right? Imagine what the value of one Satoshi is going to be, one Satoshi in 2136, and the entire world is going to be scrambling for that one. That's going to be the reward. It's going to be astronomical. Now, here's how I want you to look at this, guys. This from 2009, but from 2009 all the way to 2140, that is equivalent to your child being conceived but not born yet, in the womb but not born yet. I want you to look at Bitcoin's true birth as being at the bottom of the chart, off the chart. You see, all of these years are designed to just release it to the world. Once all of Bitcoin is released, that's when it really starts. All of these years is just getting it to the world. And it is these years that mark the biggest up move potential, the biggest and most rapid growth are these preparatory years now. What if I'm right here, guys? What if Bitcoin really hasn't started yet? What if its real start is at the end of this schedule? What if all of this is preparatory? It's crazy to think. And we still have a long way to go in its preparatory period. A long way up in value. All right, let's keep going. I know some of you saying, Oliver's lost his rocker. He's off his rocker for real now. I don't think this is priced in, guys. I told you next year is going to be, if history's any guide, next year is going to be the most explosive year of this cycle, but I believe it's going to be the most explosive year in Bitcoin's history. Hold me to it. Watch it. We'll see. We'll see if I'm right in its entire history. Because Bitcoin today is not what it's ever been in the past. And so the explosiveness next year, I don't think any of us are ready. Okay? Not only that, I don't think this is priced in. No tax on Bitcoin is coming. You heard it here first. Oh, yes, Oliver really has lost his rock. lost his marbles. I'm telling you, I'm not mad. It's coming. You're going to see. You heard it here first. Record it. All right. Well, that guy's nuts here. We're listening to a real Looney Tune here. No taxes on Bitcoin is coming. Now, I tweeted about this. Here was my tweet the other day. Neil Jacobs mentioned on his tweet, in capital gains taxes on Bitcoin. I think that's coming too. I think the world is going to move to a no tax stance on Bitcoin. And let me quickly explain to you why. Because in short order, who are the wealthiest people in the world going to be? See what I'm getting at, people? Listen, BlackRock is buying at a rate that it has never bought anything in its entire history. This is the number one manager of wealth on planet Earth, and it is buying Bitcoin more aggressively than it has ever bought anything on planet Earth. Why do you think that is? Why? The Bitcoin ETFs have more assets under management today than all the gold ETFs that took since 2004 to now. And Bitcoin in 10 months has more assets under management than it took gold. What is that? 20 years. 20 years. And in 10 months, why do you think that is? In US politics, who is the biggest donor to presidential candidates, to the political scene this year? Bitcoiners, this space. What do you think in 2028 and 2032? Do you know who the wealthiest people on planet Earth? I told you Bitcoin's going to number 2 next year. What about in 2028? It's taking gold out. What about in 2032? I'm telling you, this is a form of wealth that will leave your ass in the dust. Do you understand? It's not like people in the future will have their wealth in a factory that they can't move, so they're stuck there and they have to deal with the political scene and all the bullshit because they can't freaking lift their factory up out of the ground and move the whole operation somewhere else. But Bitcoin's 12 words. Bitcoiners are going to go where they're treated best. Do you understand? Countries are going to start vying for you as a Bitcoiner to come to us. No taxes on your Bitcoin here. And if one country starts that, they're all going to do it because all the wealth will leave that country and go to where they're treated best. This is coming. This is not 40 years off. This is not 10 years off. This is a few years off. You see, when I told people in 2022 that the next presidential cycle, Bitcoin's going to determine Bitcoin's going to be a talking point for presidential candidates in the next cycle, people thought I was crazy. And look, I am telling you that the next president will run on the next presidential candidate. There's going to be a presidential candidate that will run on a no tax Bitcoin platform, and they're going to win. This is the fastest adopted tech, the fastest adopted monetary network, the fastest adopted money in the history of the world. It is outstripping the internet. Do you understand what I'm saying? By the time 2028 is going to come around, there's going to be way more than several billion Bitcoiners. In 2032, you're going to have to please a Bitcoiner. This is my point, people. You're elite and don't even know how elite you are right now. The world is going to have to please you. Financial institutions are going to have to please you. Countries are going to have to please you because you will go where you're treated best. For the first time, you can. You can't move anywhere if your local banks or your local gold custodian has your wealth and gold. You think you're leaving with your gold? Really? You really think that's yours? You want to leave the country cold and your gold's in self-storage, a third-party custodian. You really think they're going to let you leave with that? Woohoo! Really? All right. Oh, well, Oliver, I have my wealth in the S&P 500. All right. You really think you're going to cash out of the S&P 500 and send that shit out of the country? If it's anything of magnitude, I promise you, you're going nowhere, buddy. Nowhere. You think you're getting on a plane with your wealth? You can't even leave your own country with $10,000 of value. You don't believe me? Try it. Watch you miss your plane. Try to bring $10,020 on a plane with you. Watch what happens. You will not make your flight, buddy. Your wealth is not yours. Come on. You think your property is really yours? Really? You bought that line. Only thing is yours is Bitcoin. Only thing that can't be stopped is Bitcoin. You want to leave? You leave. And who can take your word from you? From this day forward, I shall make an edict that the letter B shall be illegal for you to use because it stands for Bitcoin. All right. Good luck with that, buddy. You can't ban words. You can't stop me from having a word. I got 12 of them. You can't stop me from having 12 words. You can't even take 12 words from me. Let's try this. Let me even try this with you. I'm going to give you the word hope. Now, let's say hope is one of your 12 words that actually represents your Bitcoin. Now, but let's pretend like hope is your Bitcoin, the word hope. Now, give it to me. Give it to me. And you say, how can I take hope from you? I don't want you to have the letter HOPE anymore. I need those letters. Give them to me. How? Do you understand that this is you? You can't be separate from your wealth. This is the way it's supposed to be. You are your wealth. You are your value. It's not apart from you sitting over there somewhere. It is who you are. Your word is your bond. In this case, your word is your Bitcoin. For the first time, your word means something, and no one can take it from you. No one can steal it, confiscate it, stop it, halt it, inflate it away, change the rules on you about it. Nothing. So what I'm telling you is that as more and more politicians become Bitcoiners, the rules are going to favor Bitcoiners. As more and more countries want you to come to their country, bring your wealth there, They're going to have no tax policies. They're going to have no fees. They're going to have no waiting lines for residency. Here's your freaking passport on day one. It's going to be none of that for Bitcoiners. You are the new elite. And Bitcoiners, the early adopters, are going to be the wealthiest people in the world. No one's going to tell me that Michael Saylor's not going to be the wealthiest person on planet Earth. You understand? It's happening. It's happening. You are going to be wealthier than everybody you know. You are going to be wealthier than all of your neighbors who think you're crazy. You're going to be wealthier than everybody else in your church. You're going to be wealthier than every single relative you have. You are going to be. Maybe not them, but you are. This is not priced in. If and when this happens, you will see Bitcoin go up hundreds of thousands in a single day. In a single day. You're asking me, Oliver, am I too late? It's 90,000. Am I too late? And I'm telling you, you're going to see days where Bitcoin goes in one bar, hundreds of thousands in one bar. And you're asking me, but Oliver, am I too late? Too late. Here's some of these details that some of you really want. Bitcoin has no top, guys, and why it will forever rise. It's largely because of this, because Bitcoin is maths. All right. No human being controls or can alter the fact that every 210,000 blocks, Bitcoin's issuance rate gets cut in half. No human being flips the switch on that. There's no committee that decides when that's going to happen and how it's going to happen. Bitcoin runs without any human intervention. It's the only thing on earth that we adore, that we value, that we don't run. In fact, it's the only thing on earth that actually hires us to work for it. There's no network that Google owns, that Google pays the network to pay, that the network pays Google. No, Google creates the network. This is the only network. This is the only protocol that is autonomous. It's freaking alien tech. It hires the human race to protect it, to take care of it. And we receive the payments from it. We don't do anything for it except protect it, but we're paid to do that. There is no other network that pays human beings except Bitcoin. It's the only network that's given us its pay schedule all the way out to 2,140. I showed you. That's the pay. This is the pay schedule, people. This is Bitcoin's pay schedule. It's open. It's open roll call for anybody who wants to work and get paid. So Bitcoin is math. It's a mathematical protocol. No one determines that every 210,000 blocks, the issuance rate of new Bitcoin being released into the world gets cut in half. That is done without any human intervention. In fact, we humans get around and wait and have halving parties and wait for this protocol that no human being is controlling to do its halving. And we say, yay, it did it. That's crazy. You see how unique this is? That's wild, right? Every 2016 blocks, there's a difficulty rate adjustment, which in a sense is Bitcoin's living consciousness. Every 2016 blocks, it adjusts itself to be a little bit harder or a little bit easier based on what its employees, its network of miners is experiencing. And it realizes that, oh, wait a minute, my workforce is having a little harder of a time. So it'll adjust every 2016 blocks. And then he said, oh, it's a little bit too easy for my worker bees. So I'm now going to adjust this way, and I'm now going to adjust that way. Bitcoin is conscious of its workers and makes these adjustments every 2016 blocks. Every 10 minutes on average, a new block, a new cell, a new living, breathing thing of value comes into the world, becomes available to the human race. That's not living. That's not a living organism making adjustments on its own, growing in size, value, stature, height, length, getting stronger, exponentially so every 10 minutes of its life, growing at a rate faster than anything else in the human experience has ever been adopted. Guys, some of you need to study. You don't know what this is. You're disrespecting it by treating it like it's just another freaking stock, and you're missing its beauty. And you're going to regret this for the rest of your life if you drop the ball on this. This is the freaking easiest play human beings have ever had. Here is a chart. Many of you are probably familiar with this. This is the chart, a chart of the purchasing power of a single dollar from the day the Federal Reserve Bank of the United States, the U.S. Federal Reserve Bank, came into existence. It came into existence and took control of printing the country's or your and my money. Okay? Now, I want you to look at the far left-hand side at the start of this theft, this scheme, if you will. I want you to see that immediately the number one was painted by an artist, and he did such a wonderful job, didn't he? I mean, they went all out to paint the most beautiful one on this piece of paper. It's freaking beautiful. The art. Have you ever seen the freaking artwork on a freaking piece of the dollar? Have you looked and studied the artwork? It's intricate. It's detailed. It's freaking magical. The problem is that the one that the artist painted on it never changes, but the value does. And this is the forever trick, right? So look at the left-hand side of that chart. The one was painted on that piece of paper that day, but it immediately started losing value. It became 95 cents, but the one stayed the same. So you had to continue to go out and work for the one, but you got 95 cents. That's a ripoff. And as you continue to work for the number one, you then got 80 cents. And as you kept working for the number one, you thought the one was the same, but now it's 70 cents. Now it's 65 cents. Now it's 50 cents. And I want you to see the whole history. The one has never changed, but the purchasing power, the effectiveness of it, the value has been dropping for 127 years. And you are duped because, oh, Oliver, but it still says the number one on this paper bill. This is how generation after generation, they steal from us because they keep painting the number one and it's not one anymore. But we work for the one, but we get 20 cents now. We work for the one now, we get 10 cents in purchasing power. We work for the one now, we get 5 cents. But because the one, now what if the dollars in your pocket change numbers? So when you put a one in your pocket, you could feel it pulsating. And you're like, wait a minute, why is it pulsating so fast? Then you pull it out and you're like, holy shit, it's 85 cents now. You put it back and it starts pulsating again and you pull it. Holy shit, it's 60 cents. What would you do? You would deal with that differently. You would get rid of that. If I don't get rid of this, it's 60 cents now. It's going to keep pulsating in my pocket, and it might be 50 cents. I'm getting rid of it now. You understand? So you would start fleeing, getting rid of the declining value. But because the one on your computer screen never changes, because the one on your piece of paper never changes, it's an invisible decline. The theft is in secret. The stealing of your time and your value is in secret. Let's tell them it's still a one. Let's get one from them in value, but we're going to give them 60, and then we're going to give them 55 cents, and then we're going to give them, but as long as we keep it one, they will notice. This is the $1. What are we? Gary's asking me, what's the one I'm talking about? The one freaking dollar bill. That's what we're looking at, right? Buying power of $1 over time, boys and girls. See? One is $1. Got it, boys and girls? See? Okay. So, this theft got interrupted. Something started going wrong with the plan to steal. You see, the plan was always to steal the value through the one staying the same on your dollar bill, on your $1 bill, but the value being taken from you more and more. So look at the beginning, it just starts dropping right away. You understand? It's worth 50 cents, but you're still working for $1. You're working for a piece of paper that says $1, but you're getting 50 cents. So look at the drop to 50 cents, but then look at the sudden rally to the upside. Uh-oh, something started going wrong with the scheme. Do you see? There was an interrupt. There was a problem. This was starting not to work. What the heck is going on? That's what happened in the 20s that led up to the great crash of 1929, which ultimately a move was made to fix the problem and start stealing again. This was called, there she blows, on May 1st. I mean, on April, I can't remember, the April 5th of 1933, America puts out an executive order. The president puts out an executive order to take all of the gold away from citizens. Some people call it a confiscation. I wouldn't go that far because they did purchase it, but it became illegal for all human beings living in America to own sound money. So what was the purpose of this? To take sound money away from every American citizen so that the game of theft could be recontinued and the country could reset its debt and start all over again. This was a reset. We can't do it if the people have sound money. We need all the gold back, then we can reset and reprice gold itself. This is what basically happened because remember, I'm going to show you once again, look at what happened around this time, people. Do you see? You see, the theft was going on well all the way from $1 to 50 cents, and then it got interrupted and it started going the other way. But look at this now. Once again, look at this. Let me show it to you. Look at the date. Look at the year. Look at it. Do you see the year, people? Do you see that it's 1933 when this became law? Take the gold. Do you see the year? 1933. Now go back to the purchasing power of the US dollar, people. Go back to it. Look at it carefully. Look at the peak in 1933. Do you see the year 1933 go all the way up, go up, and that was the last of when the theft stopped going right. Then the theft started dropping forever, started continuing forever, meaning the theft of your purchasing power. Your dollar is worth less and less. The one stays the same, but the value drops forever. This is the hardest thing for me to try to explain to non-financial people, but I've been on a mission to try to do it. They don't understand how you're being stolen from when, guys, many of you don't understand what I mean by theft. You're like, theft what? Like maybe even Tasty's here saying, but I don't get it. Theft, how? Let me just try to put it this way. Last year, you had to work, let's say 1.5 hours. You needed 1.5 hours of pay to buy a week's worth of groceries last year. So it took you worked 40 hours a week, but 1.5 of those hours, what you make in 1.5 hours, bought your family's groceries for the week. All right. This year, to buy the same groceries, the same eggs, the same milk, the same bread, the same meat, the same pepper, salt, whatever it is, fruit, vegetables you buy, same thing. It now takes you 3 hours. Do you see that your time was just stolen? That the products didn't change. The eggs didn't change, the milk didn't change, the bread didn't change, the meat didn't change, the fruit didn't change, the vegetables didn't change. The groceries stayed the same, but the time you had to give to another man doubled. The following year, it might take 4 hours to buy the same groceries. 4 years from now, it might take 6 hours to buy those same groceries. You've seen this in a home. Average home used to be $2,500. Then it took more time to buy the average home at $10,000. Then it took more time to buy the average home at $25,000, then $50,000. Now, what's the average time it takes you to buy the average home? Homes are the same. 4 walls, a ceiling, a garage maybe. But the time to get an average home today keeps getting longer and longer. This means that you are a slave that works harder and harder every 4 years of your life. Every 4 years, you're guaranteed to have to work a little bit harder to get the same shit. 4 years from now, it will cost you more time to get the same groceries, to get the same house, to get the same car, to get anything in life will cost you more time. What is a slave? A slave is an individual who has no control over their time, nor the fruits of the labor of what that time produces. Your time is more and more of your time is required. That's what inflation is. More and more of your time is required working for another man to live on this planet. Do you understand this? It costs you more to be alive every 4 years of your life, unless you're a Bitcoiner. What I'm trying to show you is that every 4 years from 1933, every 4 years, this line moves to a new low. Listen to me carefully, people. We're coming to the really important part. Every 4 years, you have an all-time new low in this brown line. Just look at it. Every 4 years, there's a new low. Every 4 years, there's a new low. I'm going to keep saying it. Every 4 years, there's a new low. 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 Now, this means that every 4 years, a dollar will buy less than it did 4 years prior. That's what I mean by a new low. Not every year. Some years, singular years, you can get more for a dollar. But every 4 years, it's at an all-time new low. This is designed this way. Now, get this. Bitcoin was designed to be the opposite. So because every 4 years, the dollar's purchasing power moves to a new low, every 4 years, Bitcoin moves to a new high. It's literally designed to be a seesaw. Every 4 years, the dollar moves to a new low, so Bitcoin moves to a new high. Do you understand? It's literally designed to be mathematically the opposite of declining purchasing power of your fiat currency. It is mathematically tied to that. This is why it's a guarantee, because your dollar will never be worth more 4 years from now. It'll only be worth less. Bitcoin will never be worth less 4 years from now. It will be worth more. It's mathematically tied to the erosion of fiat monetary debasement. So Bitcoin has no top because this chart has no bottom. Now, unfortunately, this chart only goes to 2020. You see that? But let me just show you at least from 2020. It's only accelerating. There's 2020 to at least 20 through 2022. And it's significantly lower in 2024. It will never stop being lower. Do you know why? Because every new dollar printed makes that line go down. Did you hear me, people? Every new dollar printed or brought into existence makes that line go down. And guess how often a new dollar comes into existence? Every second of your life. Every second of your life, that line is dropping. Every second of your life, you're losing value. Every second in your life, you're being stolen from. Every second in your life, life is getting harder, just ever so incrementally so slowly and gradually that most people behind this don't want you to feel it or see it until it's 10 or 20 years later. And they're out of the picture. Why do governments print money? If you had control, Dutch King, if you could create money out of thin air and you didn't have to pay for it, but everyone else paid for you printing it, but you didn't have to pay, would you print it? Hell yeah, you would. If your mother got sick and you could just literally just press a button and print what was needed to take care of your mother, and no one would say anything if you did this, would you do it for your mom? Of course you would. If you really wanted that, if you had control of a printer and you really wanted that mansion on a hill, and all you had to do was press that button and get it. It cost you nothing. And when you did it, no one would say a thing. Would you do it? Oh, yes, you would do it. I would do it. Guys, I would print on your asses. Do you understand? I would print, 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 print. I'm not above printing. I'm not. You're not. I'm not. No human being is not. Money is not supposed to be in the control of human beings. It never was for thousands of years. This idea that governments control money is a very brand new experience or experiment in the human experience. Money used to be seashells. Humans don't control seashells. Money used to be gold. Humans don't make gold. Money is not supposed to be made or controlled by human beings because of what I just explained. It never was. Money is to be decided by the free marketplace, not by some government. And this experiment is failing. And some people say, well, Oliver, how do you say the experiment is failing? I'm like, this looks like a freaking success to you? Does that look like the freaking picture of success? That's a failing system, guys. That's the strongest one. That's of all the systems failing, that's the strongest system in the world. And look at its failure. You can't tell me that's the picture of success. All right. So it's only accelerating. Look at the loss of purchasing power since 2020. It's crazy. So here's what I want to show you here. I want to show you this next. So some people's minds still, and it's okay, I get it. Everyone's not, but you're going to have to learn this. You're going to have, in order to appreciate Bitcoin, you can't appreciate it unless you appreciate what I just explained. That actually, by no choice of my own, I have to go out and support the fact that I have to work to breathe on this planet. That I have to give my labor and my time. Otherwise, I die. And I don't have a choice of what to work for. I have to work for what they tell me to work for. So if I'm born on the plantation called the United States, they tell me on this plantation, you must work for the US dollar. And all those who are born on the plantation called China, they have to work for the renminbi. And all those that are born on the plantation called Japan, they have to work for the Japanese yen. Every plantation has their coupon. And just because my mother and father had me, I have to now contribute my time and value to the plantation. I have to give my work. I have to work. I have no choice. But in exchange for that, they give me a piece of paper. In exchange for my work, my slaving for this plantation, they give me this piece of paper. But when they give it to me, they keep printing it. So the papers that I have keep going down in value. They keep going down like this. You told me, you gave this to me for my work, but now you make it go down in value. Is that fair? I worked for this dollar. Now it's 50 cents. But I gave you $1 worth of work. Now you make my dollar 50 cents. Now you make my dollar 20 cents. The dollar that I gave you $1 worth of work, but now you make my dollar 10 cents. Now 5 cents. Now 2 cents. And so we have no choice but to work for this declining piece of paper. But for the first time, we have a choice to flip it into something that's not declining. You see, guys, everything is declining. Do you understand this? Everything is declining. Let me show you this. I'm going to show you this. And maybe charts will make you see this a lot clearer. All right? Charts might make you see this a lot clearer. So take a look. Smoke on this, guys. What you are looking at is the US dollar, what the US dollar is doing against Bitcoin. So basically what this chart is showing you, it reached all-time new lows now. The US dollar is declining in value against Bitcoin, which means that if you're holding US dollars instead of Bitcoin, this is your life. This is your experience. Whether you feel it or not makes no difference whatsoever. This is reality. This is your life going in the toilet just because you're holding on to dollars instead of holding on to Bitcoin. Your life is plummeting. Your life and your value and your work, the fruits of your labor, is sinking to all-time new lows. This is the dollar priced in Bitcoin. Most people are not trained to look at pairs. They're not trained to look at the dollar in comparison to something else. Especially Americans. Many foreigners outside of America are very used to this, but Americans are too privileged. They say, I don't need to compare the US dollar to anything, but you should be comparing the US dollar to everything. Since Bitcoin came into existence, look at the value of the greatest fiat currency on planet Earth, the strongest money, supposedly fiat money on planet Earth is a US dollar. Look at what it has done against Bitcoin. Watch it. Just watch. That is the dollar's life since Bitcoin came into existence. Now, you are working for this. Do you understand this? This is what you're working for. You're giving your time, everything that you've learned, all of your time, all of your energy, all of your effort, all of your information, all of your knowledge, all of your education. All of this has become you. You give this in exchange for that. Do you understand this? You give your life, you give your time, you give your knowledge, you give your information, you give who you are. You wake up in the morning, you get dressed, you go out, you work, you travel, you this and that, boom. You work hard, you're dedicated, and you get this. And if you hold it long enough, every 4 years, this moves to a new low. Look, just look at it. Stare at it again. Look at it. Look at every 4 years, people. I will mark it up for you. Every 4 years, you are moving to a new low, an all-time new low. Do you understand? It looks like it is basing out. That's just because it's a log chart, but it's not. Every 4 years, you move to a new low in purchasing power. You're getting poorer, right? Can I do this here? Now, you know what we're in store for. You're in store for this. The next major new low. And this will never stop because this will never not make a new low. Bitcoin will never not make a new high. Every 4 years, it will make a new high. Every 4 years. Why? You should know now, because every 4 years, your purchasing power will make a new low. It's mathematically tied to that fact. So, guys, everything is declining against Bitcoin. Some people say, well, Oliver, that's not true. What about the stock market? Well, let's take a look at the stock market. That's what the S&P is doing against Bitcoin. If you're holding the S&P stocks, you're holding the index, this is what you're experiencing. This is what you're experiencing by not holding Bitcoin. Let's take a look at the NASDAQ, shall we? And take a look at the NASDAQ. Let's price the NASDAQ. NDX/SATS USD. That is what the NASDAQ is experiencing against Bitcoin. That's the NASDAQ priced in Bitcoin. Let's take a look at, Tesla against Bitcoin. That is what Tesla is experiencing. That is what you're experiencing holding Tesla instead of Bitcoin. Now, quite honestly, Tesla's held up well over the last cycle, as has NVIDIA as well, SATS USD. So the last cycle down here, the last few cycles, this is very impressive. So I would say Tesla, NVIDIA is the most impressive, but your Microsofts of the world, US SATS USD. There's Microsoft. That's what you're experiencing holding Microsoft instead of Bitcoin. You can go on and on and on. You want to see me price it in something else? MicroStrategy. We can do MicroStrategy against Bitcoin, which is a little unfair because it's so SATS USD. But see, remember, we're looking at the history of MicroStrategy, which is now really starting. Since adopting Bitcoin, you're starting to see this rise. But over the life of MicroStrategy, still, but it's a little unfair to look at this now because MicroStrategy is a brand new company as of 2020, so it doesn't have a long enough history. Now, MicroStrategy will outperform Bitcoin on the upside because MicroStrategy itself is a leveraged play on Bitcoin. So you can't expect MicroStrategy to do one-to-one to Bitcoin. It's going to outperform on the upside, but it's going to dramatically underperform on the downside. So it's a two-edged sword, right? So if Bitcoin's down 20%, that'll be down 60%. You understand? If Bitcoin's up 20%, that might be up 3 times as much. Okay? But don't get this twisted. I have many strategies with MicroStrategy. We've been long MicroStrategy since November 2022. My traders can tell you this. But I love it. It's a great tool. The strategies that we build around it are proliferating. It's a great hedge. It's beautiful, but it's not freedom. Bitcoin is freedom. No stock is freedom. Bitcoin is freedom. Don't get it twisted. Just because something potentially can outperform Bitcoin doesn't mean you should substitute Bitcoin for that thing. That thing is a promise for, remember, every stock, people, every stock, every other thing that you buy is a promise for more of this. You got to understand that. Everything you buy is a promise on the other side of the promise. So listen to me carefully. You give your money for this thing. And the promise is, I'm going to take the money. The promise is, I'm going to give you back this. When you put money in Bitcoin, it should be forever, permanently. Why go back to this? Right? Bitcoin's the freedom from this. So I'm not saying that you should not play other things. You can play other things. I play other things. But the win for me is Bitcoin. That's the final stop. I play other things for Bitcoin. I don't play other things for, guys, I don't play other things for this. Do you understand? I don't want more of that. I want more Bitcoin. So my main point was to try to explain to you people that if governments will never stop printing, and they never will, every new unit makes this line go down. Do you understand? Every new unit makes the value, the purchasing power drop. New units are coming into existence every second, which means that what you're working for is melting. Look at the line, that's melting. But you have no choice. You have to make this. So we have to earn this, but we flip it into Bitcoin. We flip it here. We escape the decline here. We'd escape the decline here. Everything's declining against Bitcoin, including homes, real estate. So remember, guys, the average home in America in 2020, let's find out what that was. So $329,000, right? But remember, I bought Bitcoin at 3,800. All right. So if we do some math here, right? If I take 329, when I take 329,000, right? And I divide it by 3,800 Bitcoin, because I bought Bitcoin at 3,800. How it would take me 80, listen to me, it would take 86.6 Bitcoin. So 4 years ago, I would have to give up 86.6 Bitcoin, 86.6 Bitcoin to buy the average home in America. Today, let's find out what the average price is, shall we? Shall we? Shall we? Okay, let's do this. Average price in 2024. All right, I'll do that for you and make myself small. So average price is around 400,000. So you see how now it takes you more time to get 400,000 than it did 4 years ago to get 329,000. So your time was just taken from you, stolen from you. You need more time to get that extra amount. Now, so house is still the same. The price is now 400,000. Now, if I take Bitcoin is at 90,000, right? So if I take 400, you know what's happening, 400,000 divided by 90,000, it now costs me I don't know if you can see this, it now costs me 4.4 Bitcoin to buy the average home. So in 4 years, it initially cost me 86 Bitcoin. 4 years later, the average home, even though it went up, the average home cost me 4 Bitcoin. So I went from 86 Bitcoin to buy the average home to 4 Bitcoin to buy the average home in 2024. 2028, 1 Bitcoin? 2032, a quarter of a Bitcoin. 2036, a tenth of a Bitcoin. Do you see what I'm saying? That life gets easier for the Bitcoin. The Bitcoiner gets wealthier over time. The money maker gets poorer every 4 years. You don't want to be a money maker. You want to be a Bitcoin accumulator. The money maker, the guy who worked for money, the house went from 329 to 400. That's what the money worker experienced. The Bitcoiner experienced 86 Bitcoin to 4. Who do you want to be? Do you understand? 4 Bitcoin at $3,000 was $12,000. So for $12,000, I can now buy almost a $500,000 home for $12,000 4 years ago. And that's right, taxes went up too. So guys, you've got to start looking at money this way. Money is not what you should be working for. That's not the goal. It's not the goal. Bitcoin's the goal because it's the only thing that is going the other way. 86 Bitcoin for a house, now 4 Bitcoin. Next 4 years, less than 1. Next 4 years, dust. Do you know how many homes and you know how many homes 1 Bitcoin's going to buy in 2032? It's probably going to be incalculable. 1 Bitcoin is probably going to be able to buy 50 homes. Do you understand? It's the only thing that's going that way. Now, some people will say, well, Oliver, that's not true. The stock market rises. No, it doesn't. The stock market doesn't rise, people. This is a lie. I've been a stock market player my whole career, my whole life, 43 years. Stocks don't go up. Not in aggregate, they don't. Because if the dollar's value drops 12%, if the purchasing power drops 12%, and the stock market goes up 12%, where is the gain? You lost it on one side and gained it on another. It's flat. Do you see this? This is the biggest farce in the freaking world. It's taken from this side, but okay, we make him think he has it on the other side. It's a fugazi. I'm not saying some individual stocks don't. I'm saying in aggregate, they don't. Most people have their money in the market in aggregate. They're not winning. You understand? Let's take it like this. Well, Oliver, what about real estate? Oliver, my real estate goes up in value. Oh, really? It does. Does it? Does it really? That's a fugazi too, people. It doesn't. Your real estate doesn't go up. Let me explain to you. You buy this property in this neighborhood and you buy it for $400,000, right? All the homes on average in your neighborhood are $400,000. All of them. All right. A few years down the line, all the homes on average are now selling for $600,000. You sell for $600,000. You make a $200,000 gain. You're happy. Yeah. But everybody else's house is $600,000. They just changed the number. Where are you going to go? 600 to 600? That's not a gain. Now, if your house went up 600 and everybody else's house in the world stayed at 400,000, now you're winning. That's winning. But if everybody's house went up, that's not freaking winning. Do you get what I'm saying? It's a fugazi. It's only winning if you're the only one. You follow what I'm saying? So, guys, all of this financial trickery we can put to a friggin' end. Do you understand? By not working for dollars, you work for Bitcoin. By not playing the stock market to make more of the dollar, that's the problem, the declining thing. But if we make dollars and flip it real fast to Bitcoin, I got saved. It's the only thing not declining. It's the only thing that is mathematically designed to be at a new high every 4 years of your life, forever. Yeah, my house went up 200,000. Yeah, but everybody's house went up 200,000, dude. That's no big deal. Like, it's like I would always make this joke, guys. Because my life has been trading my whole life, and I'm one of the first ones that will tell you that, there's a failure rate in my business that ranges anywhere between 92 and 98%. In fact, the odds are just against you. You should not be trading, just period. Based on math and based on statistics, no one should really be trading. But my God, if you happen to be that 2 to 8%, my God, is your life amazing. But from a statistical odds point of view, it's probably better that you don't, because the odds of you being the 2 to 8% is very small. And some people have asked me, Oliver, does it bother you that the failure rate's so high? Does it bother you that it's so difficult to be good at it? And I say, hell no. I'm glad trading is one of the most difficult endeavors on planet Earth. I am glad that it has a 92 to 98% failure rate. I am glad that it's complex to most people, that most people will have no chance, that most people will fail, that most people will be done with it in short order. I am very glad that it's this way, because that is what makes it elite. That is what makes it special. If everybody in the world, your mother, your grandmother, your uncle, your aunt with Alzheimer's disease, if everybody could trade well, then would it be special? You would go out and be like, what do you do? I'm a professional trader. Yeah, dude, everybody's a trader. I mean, what do you really do? But because it is like that, you're welcomed wherever you go in the world, because you're special, you're rare, you're unique. That's the value in it. And so I tell you that story to say, it's not valuable if you bought a house for 400, it's now 600, and everybody else's house is 600. You didn't win, because you got to sell that house and go to a house that's 600. There's no win there. This is all financial Houdini illusionary bullshit. The only thing that's rising, truthfully, is Bitcoin. Why? Because its supply is freaking limited, and not a single human being can alter it. Take this glass. I want you to imagine that this water in the glass, this is Bitcoin, right? And that all the value in the world can fit in this glass, okay? So the value in the world is now only 1% of the value in the world is Bitcoin, but all of the value can fit But for more value to go in, the glass is going to have to ultimately become taller and taller and taller as more value, because it can't get wider. You see, if the glass could get wider, it would grow this way and start to become an elongated glass this way. But because it can only grow up, because the sides are locked in place, 21 million across. Do you understand? It's 21 million. Now it can only go up. As you pour more in, this just gets taller. It can't get wider. Everything else on earth can get wider. Oh, gold can get wider. We just find more, we just dig deeper and get more. That's growing wider. We can make more companies. We can make more publicly traded companies. Stocks can get wider. We can bring into existence more bonds. Bonds can get wider. Everything can get wider except Bitcoin. Bitcoin can only get taller. That is why every block is called what? Block height? Yes? Block height? Block height. Oh, a new block height? Block height? Block height? Can't get wider. It can only get taller. Everything else gets wider. And so, since the glass is immovable widthwise, as you pour more value in it, it must get taller. And so, Bitcoin will ultimately suck in all of the value. Why do we know this? Because money sniffs out, seeks out, and finally settles in the best money of all. Humans can't even stop it. Value seeks the most secure resting place. And because Bitcoin is here, what is being adopted as a monetary network faster than any other money in the history of human mankind? Bitcoin. And it's showing it to you by ripping to an all-time new high, climbing up the asset ladder one by one until next year it's number 2, and the next 4 years it's number 1. Why on earth would you want to get rid of that and go back to the slave declining money? Like, why would you, that doesn't even make sense to me. That's right. My cup runneth over. Yes. When will the glass break? It won't. It is indestructible, unhackable, unhaltable, unstoppable. Another way of looking at this, guys, is how do you break the words in my head? How do you rip them apart? How do you stop them from being? You can't. Those words represent math, numbers. Show me where a number is. All right, I'll tell you what. The number 1, where does it live? Where does the number 1 live? Show me. Tell me. What country? What state? What county? Where is its house? Can you point to it? Can I touch it? I know you can draw a representation of it. I can draw the letter B as a representation for Bitcoin, but I can't show you Bitcoin. Why? Because Bitcoin is math. Just like I can't show you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They're abstract. They live, but they live outside the realm of all human activity in a way. It's beyond the senses. Water can't wet it, fire can't burn it, thieves can't steal it, but it lives. It's there. It's real. And don't ever forget that the things that we today will die for are the very things that cannot be touched, seen, tasted, felt, or smelt. Smelled. We value at the highest level, the things that we will die for are things like love, justice, honesty, peace, honor, freedom. These things have no physical reality. They don't reside in a specific location that we travel to and pay homage to. You cannot put it in my hands. You can show me a representation of them, but they do, yet they still live and they breathe and they're just as real as Bitcoin is real, despite the fact that it is beyond the senses. And it is indestructible because you and I can't touch it. Because if we could touch it, we would fuck it up. If we could hold on to it, we would break it. So it lives outside of our ability to fuck with it, but not so much that we can't benefit from it. You know what to do. Go to work, stack harder. Don't get fooled by these narratives out here. All right? You got a guaranteed winner every 4 years of your life forever. It will never stop paying you ever. You need to be really careful giving that away. And you got to be careful about trying to play the timing game. You don't give your guarantee to anyone. You don't give your certainty to anyone. There's no price for that. You just build when it's not doing that, knowing that that new high is coming every 4 years. Build when it's not doing that. Switch that melting ice cube to that when it's not making new highs, because the new high cometh every 4 years of your life. It's mathematically certain. And for the first time, you and I are not on the outside. You and I have the sure thing. For the first time, we, the regular people, are on the inside. Don't squander it. My name is Oliver Velez, and I am your 13%er Bitcoiner. Be safe out there, and until next time. Boom!